Imagine it's a warm summer evening, and the sun is just beginning to set, casting a golden glow over your street. It's the time of day when kids are riding bikes, laughter fills the air, and you hear it. The unmistakable sound of an ice cream truck drawing closer. You've heard it before. A sweet melody that signals a small, fleeting moment of joy. You smile. Perhaps you even look out your window to catch a glimpse of that familiar truck. But what if, just for a moment, you stop and wonder? What if that truck isn't just bringing ice cream? What if it's bringing something far more dangerous? What if that innocent little vehicle, rolling down your street, is hiding a secret so dark, so twisted, that you can't even begin to comprehend it? Tonight, we'll explore 3 terrifying ice cream truck horror stories, stories that will make you think twice before ever waving down that truck again, where the sound of the bell no longer signals sweetness, but a slow descent into something much darker. It was a foggy night, the kind where the mist clings to the ground, swallowing everything in its path. On nights like these, the world feels almost suspended, as though time itself is holding its breath. In the heart of a long-forgotten amusement park, closed for years and left to rot, a legend has persisted. A legend that speaks of a haunted ice cream truck, a truck that appears once a year under the shroud of thick fog, bringing with it horrors that no one dares to speak of. Local legends say that on one particular night, the anniversary of the truck's first appearance decades ago, anyone brave or foolish enough to enter the park would be met with something far darker than they could ever have imagined. Those who went in never came out. And yet, every year, the story calls to those curious enough to uncover the truth. This year, Olivia, a local historian with a fascination for the park's dark history, decided she would be the one to find out what really happened. Olivia had spent her life studying the park's past, documenting its rise and fall. But the story of the haunted ice cream truck had always intrigued her. After all, a mystery like that was too tantalizing to ignore. So, on the fateful night, she packed her bag and made her way to the old park, determined to uncover the truth. But what she didn't know was that tonight, the truth would come for her. As Olivia stepped into the misty, decaying park, a chill ran down her spine. The air felt thick, heavy with secrets, and the faint echo of children's laughter seemed to drift through the fog, though no children had been there for years. Her flashlight flickered weakly as she moved through the forgotten rides, the remnants of the park's once bright past, now hidden under layers of rust and decay. Then she heard it, faint at first, like a whisper carried on the wind, but unmistakable. The sound of an ice cream truck bell. Olivia's heart skipped a beat. Was it just a trick of the mind? No, the sound was real, and it was growing louder. As she walked deeper into the park, the sound of the truck's music filled the air, drawing her toward it. She couldn't explain it, but something in her told her this was it. This was the truck that had haunted the town's whispers for generations. Olivia's steps quickened, and soon she arrived at the clearing. There, bathed in the ghostly glow of her flashlight, sat the truck. It was like a relic from another time, its white paint chipped and faded, its sides rusted with age. But the most chilling thing was that the truck was frozen in place, completely still. There was no driver, no sign of life, only the eerie sound of the truck's jingle, playing on an endless loop, filling the air with a hollow emptiness. As Olivia stepped closer, She could feel the temperature drop around her. The air grew colder with every step, and soon it felt as though she were walking into a different world entirely. The fog swirled around the truck, and though there was no sign of wind, it moved like a living thing. A strange, oppressive energy hung in the air. Olivia's breath fogged up in front of her, the chill now settling deep into her bones. Then, with a jolt, the doors of the truck swung open, slamming loudly against the sides. Olivia jumped back, her heart pounding. Inside the truck, the scene was nothing like she expected. Old, melted ice cream covered the floor in layers, the sticky remnants of something long past. But it wasn't just the mess that caught her attention. It was what she saw frozen within the ice cream. Faces. Faces of children, their features distorted, their eyes wide with terror. Forever trapped in the frozen goo, their faces were twisted, as if they were calling for help, begging to be freed. The truck's interior felt alive, as if the very walls were pulsing with the energy of the past. And that's when she heard it. A whisper, almost inaudible, but unmistakable. A child's voice, soft and pleading, calling out from the frozen ice cream, "Help us!" Olivia's pulse quickened, and before she could react, the truck's doors slammed shut behind her. She was trapped. The air inside the truck thickened as though the space was collapsing around her. A faint sound, like the shuffle of footsteps, echoed in the distance. It was as if someone, or something, was moving just out of sight. Olivia rushed to the doors, but they wouldn't budge. She pounded on them, screaming for help, but there was no one, no answer. The faces of the children seemed to grow clearer in the ice cream, their mouths moving as though they were speaking, but their voices were drowned out by the eerie music that played on a never-ending loop. Then a voice broke through the madness, an adult voice, deep and chilling. "You shouldn't have come here." The truck's engine rumbled to life, and Olivia felt it, an overwhelming force pulling her, dragging her deeper into the truck's grip. She could hear the sound of children's laughter, but it was twisted, distorted. Was it from the past? Or was it her own mind breaking apart under the weight of the truck's curse? Olivia tried to scream, to fight back, but it was as if the truck had a life of its own, wrapping its cold, icy fingers around her mind. She felt herself being pulled into the truck's time-warped grip, reliving moments from her own childhood, the truck's jingle playing in the background like a lullaby. But this time, she was the child. And she wasn't just hearing the laughter of the past, she was becoming part of it. The truck's driver, never seen but always felt, was the true terror. A specter of vengeance, a twisted figure who had been pulling souls into the truck for decades. And now it had Olivia. Her fate? It remains unclear. Some say she was pulled into the truck, her soul lost to the spirits of the children who were never seen again. Others say she escaped, but the truck's presence still haunts her, forever following her, just out of sight. What we do know is this: Olivia never returned, and every year, on the anniversary of the truck's appearance, the mist returns, and the truck's bell rings through the fog, waiting for its next victim. So, what do you think happened to Olivia? Was it the truck that took her? Or did the ghosts inside drive her mad? Maybe the truth is worse than you could imagine. In a small rural town, the kind of place where everyone knows your name, and the nights are as quiet as the countryside, something evil waited in the shadows. It was a late evening, the air heavy with the lingering warmth of a summer day, when Rachel and James, two young lovers, found themselves driving home from a long day's work. They had just finished a quiet dinner, the kind of night where nothing unusual ever happens. The road ahead was dark, the only light coming from their headlights cutting through the night. But then, something unusual caught their eye. There, in the distance, barely visible under the dim glow of a flickering street light, stood an ice cream truck. It wasn't parked by the side of a busy street or near a playground where you'd expect to find it. It was alone, nestled at the edge of an empty, overgrown field far from the town. Its engine hummed low, as if waiting for something, or someone. Rachel, curious and a little unsettled by its odd location, turned to James. She pointed, and without a word, they both knew they should avoid it. But James, ever the one to seek adventure, suggested they stop. After all, it was just an ice cream truck, right? Nothing more. But as they rolled down the window, the truck's music echoed louder, like it was calling them. As their car crept closer, they saw the truck's driver, a man in a dirty white uniform, his face obscured by shadows standing in the open door. He gave a slow, deliberate wave, beckoning them to come closer, to pull over. There was something about the way he moved, the stillness in the air that made Rachel's skin crawl. It wasn't just the truck's strange location that felt wrong. It was the way everything seemed too quiet, too perfect. James hesitated. He couldn't explain why, but a feeling of dread was settling in his chest. It was irrational, he thought. After all, it was just an ice cream truck. Yet the sight of it, sitting there in the empty stretch of road, with the man waiting, felt like something out of a nightmare. They pulled up alongside the truck. The man in the uniform didn't move. He simply stared at them, his eyes hidden beneath the brim of a worn cap. His hand still lingered on the door, his fingers twitching slightly, almost like he was anticipating something. A scream cut through the night, but it wasn't a sound they heard with their ears. No, it was a sound that came from the pit of their stomachs, a sensation that traveled up their spines. Rachel's heart raced as she reached for the door handle, but James pulled her back, his eyes glued to the truck's rearview mirror. His face turned pale. In the dim reflection, James saw something that made his blood run cold. Faint bloodstains splattered across the mirror, smeared as if someone had wiped something off in a hurry. But there was something else, a movement, the shadow of a body shifting in the back of the truck. James gripped the steering wheel, his breath quickening. Before they could react, a blood-curdling scream rang out from within the truck, a sound so sharp, so filled with agony, that it rattled their very bones. Without thinking, James slammed his foot on the gas pedal, sending the car into a fast, panicked reverse. The truck's door slammed shut as if it had never been open, and just as quickly, the engine roared to life. In a flash, the truck lurched forward, its headlights blinding, and began to tail them. Fast, too fast. As if the truck was hunting them, chasing them down the dark, empty road. Rachel and James barely had time to react. The truck's headlights were right behind them, burning bright, relentless. James floored the accelerator, pushing the car faster, but the truck never faltered. Every turn they took, the truck was there, closing the distance, growing nearer. It wasn't just a coincidence. This wasn't a random encounter. The truck was after them, and it wouldn't stop until it had them. As they sped down the winding roads, Rachel looked back, her hands shaking. She saw the truck's headlights cutting through the darkness like the eyes of a predator, determined and cold. Just as they reached the edge of town, with their hearts pounding, James swerved hard into a side street, cutting off the truck's pursuit. For a moment, they thought they had escaped. The truck was gone. But then, just as they turned to catch their breath, something caught James's eye in the rearview mirror. The truck, still following them, still waiting. It had disappeared into the night, but now it was back, lingering in the shadows. The couple managed to reach safety, at least for now. But as the days went on, James couldn't shake the feeling that the truck had never truly left them. He would hear the sound of a truck's engine at odd hours of the night, and when he'd look outside, the truck would be there, parked down the street, just watching, as if waiting for the right moment to strike again. Did they ever escape? Or was the ice cream truck still out there, just biding its time, waiting for the perfect moment to finish what it had started? It started like any other summer day. The sun was high, the streets filled with the sounds of children playing. Sam, a 17-year-old from a quiet suburban neighborhood, had seen the ice cream truck pass through his block more times than he could count. But this time, something felt off. Unlike the usual truck, this one never stopped. It would just drift slowly through the neighborhood, its music hanging in the air long after it passed, almost like it was waiting for something, or someone. Sam had always been curious, but on this day, his curiosity got the best of him. He decided to follow it. As he walked down the sidewalk, keeping a safe distance, Sam couldn't shake the strange feeling that something wasn't right. The truck made its way down the familiar streets, but no kids came running. No one was outside at all, despite the fact that it was the middle of the afternoon. No one except Sam and the truck. He approached the truck at the corner of Oak Street. He saw it sitting there, parked as if waiting. The driver, a tall man in a hooded sweatshirt, never turned to face him. The truck itself was in pristine condition, its ice cream cones and logos shining brightly in the sun. But something felt wrong. Sam didn't know it yet, but the strange feeling in the pit of his stomach was just the beginning. Sam hesitated for a moment, watching the truck from a distance, unsure of whether to approach. His hand reached into his pocket, instinctively grabbing for change. He had never felt a sense of dread about an ice cream truck before, but this time, something about it felt like a trap, a feeling, a presence, something invisible but deeply felt. He walked closer and finally reached the window. The man inside did not speak. He just stared ahead, his face hidden in the shadow of the hood. The ice cream man handed Sam his order, but as he did, Sam noticed something disturbing. The ice cream wasn't melting. It looked perfect, but it had a strange sheen to it. A deep, unnatural sheen, like something you'd find in a museum untouched by time. Sam took the ice cream and stepped back, his mind racing. He could feel the truck's eyes on him, though he never saw them. And as he walked away, the truck's music grew louder, almost as if it was following him. He turned, expecting to see the truck moving on, but it remained perfectly still, its headlights now glowing in a way they never had before. As the days passed, Sam couldn't shake the feeling that the truck was still there, lurking just out of sight. At night, he began to hear the faint echoes of the truck's jingle outside his window. No one else seemed to hear it. And then, a week later, something even stranger happened. Sam walked down the street one morning, and as he passed the usual spot where the truck was always parked, he noticed something disturbing. There were missing persons flyers posted all along the utility poles, all with the same disturbing image. An image of a child, last seen near Oak Street, a child who had vanished without a trace. But the date on the flyer was odd. It showed that the child had gone missing just a few days before Sam had first seen the truck. He felt a chill spread through him as he realized the horrifying truth. The truck was more than just a simple vehicle. It was something far worse, something linked to the disappearances that had plagued his town. Sam decided to confront the truck once and for all. But when he returned to Oak Street, the truck was gone. He searched the neighborhood, asking questions, but no one had seen it. The police were baffled. No one could find any trace of the truck or of the missing children. But Sam couldn't forget what he'd seen. Was the ice cream truck a ghost? A machine feeding off the innocent? Or something far darker, far older than anyone in town could ever imagine? To this day, no one knows what happened to the ice cream man or the children who disappeared. And in the dead of night, when the silence of the streets grows heavy, some say you can still hear the faint jingle of the truck's music, drifting through the air, just out of sight, but always present. Now, imagine this. What if the truck you saw wasn't just empty? What if it was following you? What if it's been hunting you, waiting, even when you least expect it? 3 stories, 3 chilling encounters, each one more terrifying than the last. We've heard of the ice cream truck that vanishes without a trace, disappearing into thin air, its presence leaving only fear in its wake. We've met the couple who encountered a killer driving the truck, with blood on its mirrors and a hunger for victims. And we've learned of the haunted truck, trapped in time, where children's souls remain frozen in a twisted cycle, pulling the living into its icy grip. These aren't the stories of a summer's fun. These are the nightmares hiding behind the sweet jingle of an ice cream truck. Whether it's a vanishing truck, a killer lurking on the streets, or a haunting that stretches across time itself. One thing is certain. Ice cream trucks are not as innocent as they seem. There's something darker behind that familiar melody. And once you hear it, there's no turning back. If you're brave enough to uncover more dark mysteries, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You never know what we'll explore next. Each story is darker than the last, and we'll be right here bringing you the chilling details.